Hello, good morning. This is Missy McAuliffe. As I have mentioned in my previous video, I am the administrator for the Depression and Anxiety Activity Group. Today we're going to start the process of learning about borderline personality disorder, or another way to express it is BPD. This is something I've been diagnosed with about 3 years ago, and I have been researching it ever since I've received the diagnosis. I have a fascination to learn about this diagnosis because it is so complicated and it is very complex for a person with BPD to express themselves and understand how to retrain their personality and behaviors in order to get through the borderline process. So the first part of borderline personality disorder that we need to learn are the 9 symptoms. So, in order for you to be diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, you have to have at least 5 or more of these symptoms to be diagnosed. If these come up that you do have 5 or more of these symptoms, that does not necessarily mean that you do have BPD. But if you are concerned about it, please direct yourself to your therapist or your psychiatrist and discuss what you feel is going on with yourself. And ask them if there's a chance that you could have borderline personality disorder. Getting into the 9 symptoms of borderline personality disorder, the first one is fear of abandonment. The second one is unstable relationships. The third is unclear or shifting self-image. The fourth is impulsive, self-destructive behaviors. The fifth is self-harm. The 6th is extreme emotional swings. The 7th is chronic feelings of emptiness. The 8th is explosive anger. The 9th is feeling suspicious or out of touch with reality. I will be explaining each and every one of these symptoms throughout the time that I'll be videotaping these sessions, okay? If you ever have any questions or anything, please put them in the comments below, and we can have a discussion about them. Or if you want to know more about borderline personality disorder on a professional level, refer yourself back to your psychiatrist or your therapist. Or if you want to do some research on your own, you could research Dr. Daniel Fox or Marsha Linehan. Those are the 2 experts on BPD. So the first thing we need to know about BPD is it usually does come with a co-occurring disorder. Some of those co-occurring disorders are depression or bipolar disorder, substance abuse, eating disorders, and anxiety disorders. They tend to come hand in hand. Now, your mental diagnosis is your co-occurring disorders. Your behavioral diagnosis is the borderline personality disorder. And when you have these disorders combining with each other, it makes life to be very challenging for the person who is suffering from it, okay? So what we're going to do now is we're going to get into kind of like what the BPD stands for and how serious it is. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about how serious BPD is. Borderline personality becomes very serious at the lowest level of functioning. This is the point when a person with BPD finds it hard to form stable relationships, show up for work every day, go to therapy regularly, and manage their adult responsibilities. So as you can see with your behavior patterns, it's very difficult to manage your days during these situations. Experts do not like to call BPD situations episodes, but they call them behavioral patterns, okay? So the next thing we're going to get into are the distinguishing symptoms of borderline personality, which are marked by sensitivity to minor rejection or criticism, alternating between extremes of idealization and devaluation, along with varying moods and difficulty regulating strong emotional reactions. Now, there are other symptoms that may follow the borderline personality disorder spectrum, and they may include feeling insecure of one's personal identity, morals and values, having paranoid thoughts when feeling stressed, depersonalization, and in moderate to severe cases, stress-induced breaks with reality of psychotic episodes. So as we talk about borderline personality, we're going to indulge a lot into the 9 symptoms of BPD, okay? So the first one we're going to discuss is fear of abandonment. Unfortunately, fear of abandonment is a big one for me. I do suffer from that terribly. The meaning of fear of abandonment is people with BPD are often terrified of being abandoned or left alone. Even something as innocuous as a loved one arriving home late from work or going away for the weekend may trigger intense fear. This can prompt frantic efforts to keep the other person close. You may beg, cling, start fights, track your loved one's movements, or even physically block the person from leaving. Unfortunately, this behavior tends to have the opposite effect, driving others away. Now, unfortunately, this is my biggest one, as I said, in borderline personality disorder. Because when my husband, who is my favorite person, and we'll find out more about that later on, when he tends to go away for a scouting event, or if he tends to pick up extra shifts at work, or he tends to do some activities without taking me with him, I go through this fear of abandonment with the feeling left out, feeling alone, feeling like sometimes he's not going to return home to me, and feeling like that he's just kind of tired of the situation and he's just not going to return. Luckily, I have become that lucky person in which he does come back every time, and we do have a very strong and stable relationship. Although there are times when my borderline flares up, it does put him on eggshells for quite some time. And I'm talking quite some time, not just a couple of hours, but it could be days and weeks that he could be in this position, okay? So the first thing we're going to talk about is, in fear of abandonment, is why. Why do we have fear of abandonment in borderline personality disorder? And a lot of it is because we have difficulty managing ourselves. We have a difficulty managing our daily life. We have difficulty managing our work schedules. And we have difficulty managing our depression and our anxiety. So when we have these difficulties exposed, we have a grand view of how difficult one's life could be on a daily basis with BPD. From this point on, I'm going to take one at a time, the symptoms, just as I did with fear of abandonment, and I'll be introducing them to you each video one at a time so you could get a better understanding of what's going on with it. So I hope that you follow me and subscribe to my channel. As I've said earlier, if you want more information on borderline personality disorder, please talk to your professional. Or you could research Dr. Daniel Fox or Marsha Lenehan on YouTube. These are the 2 biggest proponents of BPD in the area. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope to see you again soon.